Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, my friends. God's blessings upon you. Let's praise the Lord together, my friends. We have all awakened in God's shelter. Now we've come to praise His name together. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good my friend, sing Hosanna, Hosanna, hallelujah, hallelujah, Allah, in the sanctuary of our Lord's protection, and the stronghold of our Lord's defense. With His love, our spirits are illumined. As we glorify His name, our hearts are blessed. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, my friend, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, my friends. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone out there in Facebook land. Do a little thing here, man. These little things that pop up in Zoom, sometimes they can be very distracting. So I'll blame any mistake I make on that. But good morning, everyone. How you doing today, Daryl?
I'm doing well, sir.
Thank you. Good? I'm good.
How about you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm great. I'm amazing. I'm fantastic. And even okay. Yeah.
Okay.
How you doing this morning, Camby's? You good?
Oh, thank you. Yes, thank you.
You good? And Andy, good morning. How are you? He's good too.
I'm doing fine.
Okay, great. And we have Farrah with us, the lovely Farrah. I actually saw Farrah the other night at Feast. First time I've seen, because she doesn't usually show herself on screen. So it was good to see her lovely face. How are you this morning,
Farrah? Good to see you both.
Good morning, Farrah.
Good morning. Yes, and hi out there, everybody in Facebook land. Now, I guess we need to go ahead, as always, and start with a prayer. And this morning, I'll admit I had been remiss. I was so busy. I'll say just doing other things, but especially reading the passages we're going to be dealing with today. That I think I'm going to go with this. This is a prayer from Baha'u'llah, and it's a prayer that talks about his sacrifice for humanity. Praise be to thee, O Lord my God. I implore thee by thy name that hath caused to surge within every drop of the oceans of thy loving kindness and mercy, and to shine within every atom the luminaries of thy bountiful blessings and favors. I implore thee to adorn every soul with the ornament of thy love, that none may remain on thine earth who has not turned towards thee, or hath failed to detach himself from all except thyself. Thou hast verily, O my God, suffered him who is the manifestation of thine own self to be afflicted with all manner of adversity, in order that thy servants may ascend unto the pinnacle of thy gracious favor, and attain unto that which thou hast through thy providence and tender mercies ordained for them in the tablets of thine irrevocable decree. The glory of thy might beareth me witness. Were they, every moment of their lives, to offer up themselves as a sacrifice in thy path, they would still have done but little in comparison with the manifold bestowals vouchsafed unto them by thee. Grant therefore, I beseech thee, that their hearts may be inclined towards thee, and that their faces may be turned in the direction of thy good pleasure. Powerful art thou to do what thou willest. No God is there but thee, the inaccessible, the all-glorious, the ever-forgiving. Deign then to accept, O my God, from thy servant, the things which he hath shown forth in his love for thee. Fortify him then, that he may cling to thy most exalted word and unloose his tongue to celebrate thy praise, and cause him to be gathered unto such of thy people as are nigh unto thee. Thou art he within whose grasp is the empire of all things. There is none other God but thee, the Almighty, the help in peril, the all-glorious, the unconstrained. And again, this is a prayer by Baha'u'llah. Good morning, Gilbert.
Good morning, Gilbert.
Now, if you've been following along with
Good
us,
morning.
you know that we've been working on this book for the last few weeks now, One Common Faith. We started it on New Year's Day. One Common Faith. And basically, I mean, again, it is a letter that was written in 2005 from the Universal House of Justice, the supreme governing body of the Baha'i Faith. It was written to various leaders of the world. And basically, it's warning them about the excessive growth of materialism to the extent that it actually has replaced religion and in so many ways become a religion in and of itself. And so we're going to go ahead and I'm going to try not to expound on that too much. Okay. One of the things that should be pointed out from last week's reading that is important is the fact that they pointed out that colonialism was a part of this extreme, I'll just say this race towards materialism. And as a result, it placed that part of the world where most of the people live, primarily, I'd say in the southern hemispheres, but it wasn't just that. I shouldn't even say that. I'm kind of misinterpreting. The experience of the peoples of Africa, Asia, Latin America, and the Pacific. Those were the places that were primarily named. Most of the Earth's people live there, but most of the material benefits of this rush towards materialism benefited the people in other areas, shall we say, the more industrialized nations of the world. Sure. And they have fewer people living there. So that was pointed out too. And so we're going to go ahead and begin today about I'm trying to rush into it, that all of this has resulted in an increased interest in religion. Some would call it spirituality. Some would call it. People are seeking for answers that materialism does not satisfy, does not give us. And so we'll go ahead and continue with that today.
The reawakened interest in religion is clearly far from having reached its peak in either its explicitly religious or its less definable spiritual manifestations. On the contrary, the phenomenon is the product of historical forces that steadily gather momentum. Their common effect is to erode the certainty bequeathed to the world by the 20th century that material existence represents ultimate reality. The most obvious cause of these reevaluations has been the bankruptcy of the materialist enterprise itself. For well over 100 years, the idea of progress was identified with economic development and with its capacity to motivate and shape social improvement. I'm going to read that again.
Yeah.
The most obvious cause of these reevaluations has been the bankruptcy of the materialist enterprise itself. For well over 100 years, the idea of progress was identified with economic development and with its capacity to motivate and shape social improvement. Those differences of opinion that existed did not challenge this worldview, but only conceptions as to how its goals might best be attained. Its most extreme form, the iron dogma of scientific materialism, sought to reinterpret every aspect of history and human behavior in its own narrow terms. Whatever humanitarian ideals may have been inspired, some of its early proponents, the universal consequence was to produce regimes of totalitarian control prepared to use any means of coercion in regulating the lives of hapless populations subjected to them.
I'm going to stop you there, Daryl, because it's something that has occurred to me as the writers of this letter so clearly. They bring a lot of things that appear to be, separate from one another.
Mm-hmm.
And yet they bring them under the same umbrella, and that umbrella being, okay, of course, this idea of materialism. And again, as we pointed out last week, materialism not just being this idea of getting more and more and more stuff, but even defining our very existence as human beings as primarily material, not necessarily in need of spirituality, not necessarily, that all of our needs, even our need for, let's say, happiness, can be met simply through material methods, through satisfying our material urges, our material needs, and so forth. And yet, again, people are looking at it and seeing, for those people who have been fortunate enough to have enough, let's say, money to get all the toys, and they still end up dissatisfied.
Absolutely.
And they need new toys, and they need to go looking for something else. And again, the writers of this letter point out that as a result, people go looking for other things. Not necessarily saying they're looking in the right places for the right things, but they look for other things, something that will be more fulfilling to them on a much deeper level. And because it says the common effect is to erode the certainty that material existence represents ultimate reality. So they go looking for other things.
Well, they're trying to conflate materialism with spiritualism.
Boom.
And you
Yes.
cannot, and it's obvious you can't do that.
Yes. And for them to point out that this materialist enterprise basically is bankrupt. People are seeing it for the emptiness that it is. The most obvious cause of these reevaluations has been the bankruptcy of the materialist enterprise itself.
That's
Yes.
right.
So I just felt like that, that needed, it's just reading it again. And that's not to say it's not nice to have material comforts. But yeah, how far do you take that?
Yeah.
And at what cost? Okay, I'll go ahead and quit there.
The goal held up as justification of such abuses was the creation of a new kind of society that would ensure not only freedom from want, but fulfillment for the human spirit. Again, we're trying to conflate materialism with spiritualism, and it's impossible to do. At the end, after 8 decades of mounting folly and brutality, the movement collapsed as a credible guide to the world's future. It collapsed.
Yeah, and one thing that we can't deny, just reading this, and one thing, okay, we could say that we're basing everything on one source, just this book, and that's not the case. I think in reading this book, we can look at, let's say, just history.
Yeah.
We can look at verifiable events and movements throughout the 20th century and see again what a failure they have been. I mean, you think about that whole that materialist mindset. It even affects, let's say, government and politics. I'm looking at that phrase, the universal consequence. It said whatever humanitarian ideals may have inspired some of its early proponents, scientific materialism. The universal consequence was to produce regimes of totalitarian control prepared to use any means of coercion in regulating the lives of hapless populations subjected to them. And we just, us being everyday average people, a lot of times, it's not like we don't notice. A lot of times we're dissatisfied with the changes in society, but we may feel powerless or hapless, to do anything about it, or even unaware. Maybe we're just kind of going along with the masses. And yet it's still there. And I think that the writers of this do a very good job in making us take a look at these are the things that have happened down through the last, 100, 200 years. Yeah.
Other systems of social experimentation, while repudiating recourse to inhumane methods, nevertheless derived their moral and intellectual thrust from the same limited conception of reality. Mm-hmm. The view took root that since people were essentially self-interested actors in matters pertaining to their economic well-being, the building of just and prosperous societies could be ensured by one or another scheme of what was described as modernization. So we put a label on it. We're calling it modernization.
You know what? You just said something. We put a label on it. Think about how often that's done even today.
Exactly.
Here's an idea, and the idea may even be a clear idea, but for us to be able to deal with it or even express it, usually we have to give it a name, and unfortunately, often when we give it a name, we may try and name it in a positive way or even in a negative way, depending on how we perceive whatever that concept may be. Who would say anything negative about modernization?
Right.
Isn't that always good?
Yeah.
And I say that with sarcasm, but anyway.
The closing decades of the 20th century, however, sagged under the mounting burden of evidence to the contrary. The breakdown of family life, soaring crime, dysfunctional educational systems, and a catalog of other social pathologies that bring to mind the somber words of Baha'u'llah's warning about the impending condition of human society. Such shall be its plight, that to disclose it now would not be meet and seemly.
Hey, Daryl. What's seemly mean? No. What does meet mean in this case? I'm asking you. I'm not testing you. Yeah, but you know what? I have read that quote from Baha'u'llah thousands of times. I just thought it meant it would not be wise at this time. And that's not what it means. It means it wouldn't be proper. It wouldn't be appropriate at this time. And again, I was going to say that's just a small difference, but the truth is that's a huge difference.
That's true.
I'm sure, not being wise that may be inferred. I might infer that, but that's not what that word means. It means, it wouldn't be proper at this time. So it would not be meet and seemly. I equate that with Jesus saying, I have more to tell you.
Yeah.
But you couldn't bear it.
Yeah,
you couldn't bear it now.
The fate of what the world has learned to call social and economic development has left no doubt that not even the most idealistic motives can correct materialism's fundamental flaws. Born in the wake of the chaos of the Second World War, development became by far the largest and most ambitious collective undertaking on which the human race has ever embarked. Its humanitarian motivation matched its enormous material and technological investment. 50 years later, while acknowledging the impressive benefits development has brought, the enterprise must be adjudged by its own standards and a disheartening failure.
Well, hey.
50 years later, while acknowledging the impressive benefits development has brought, the enterprise must be adjudged by its own standards. A disheartening failure.
But wasn't it supposed to be the thing that lifted the masses out of poverty?
Absolutely.
And having already read this, but still there are things that pop out at me that didn't pop out at me when I read it the first and second time. Born in the wake of the chaos of the Second World War, development became by far the largest and most ambitious collective undertaking on which the human race has ever embarked. That's one of those things we need to point out. Materialism went from, let's face it, I mean, on some level, I'm sure it's safe to say that humanity has always been materialistic to some extent.
Right.
But somewhere along the line, it became a movement. And this is saying it became a movement after the Second World War.
Yeah.
There was good stuff before then, but it really, really kicked into high gear. Again, born in the wake of the chaos, but not after, but of the Second World War, development became by far the largest and most ambitious collective undertaking on which the human race has ever embarked. And it was motivated by a sense of humanitarianism.
Absolutely.
Its humanitarian motivation matched its enormous material and technological investment. So, it was like the intentions were good. At least for some, the intentions were good. And yet, if you judge that movement by its own standards, it says, this isn't us just coming up with some, new set of parameters we're going to judge it by. No, by its own standards, it's a disheartening failure.
Far from narrowing the gap between the well-being of the small segment of the human family who enjoy the benefits of modernity and the condition of the vast populations mired in hopeless want, the collective effort that began with such high hopes has seen the gap widen into an abyss.
Instead of making things better for many people,
Yeah.
it made it worse.
The haves continue to have and the have-nots continue to grow.
You're putting your book down, Darryl. Why
Yes.
is that?
It's time for a song, sir.
I don't know. Do you want to take a chance on this? Okay. All right. We'll go ahead and pause for a song. I only hope I can hear the drum. In the garden of thy heart, plant out but the rose of love. Plant out but the rose of love. In the garden of thy heart, plant out but the rose of love. Plant out but the rose of love. of affection and desire. Loosen not thy hold. Treasure the companionship of the righteous and eschew all fellowship from the ungodly. And from the nightingale of affection and desire, loosen not thy hold. Treasure the companionship of the righteous and eschew all fellowship with the ungodly. In the garden of thy heart, plant not but the rose of love. 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 Oh, friend. Oh, friend. Oh, friend. Oh, friend.
All right.
That was nice what you did. I like that solo.
Thank you.
Well, now to continue.
Why don't you take over?
Okay, there's one problem. I don't remember where you left.
Top of page 10.
Oh, at the top. Okay, I was getting ready to start in the middle. Okay. Here's a phrase most people are probably pretty familiar with and connected to on a psychological level. Consumer culture. Consumer culture. Today's inheritor by default of materialism's gospel of human betterment is unembarrassed by the ephemeral nature of the goals that inspire it. Had to look up ephemeral. Had to. I knew the word. I used the word. Apparently, I've been using the word wrong. Ephemeral means basically lasting a short time. Just lasting a short time. So consumer culture, today's inheritor by default of materialism's gospel of human betterment, is unembarrassed by the ephemeral nature of the goals that inspire it. For the small minority of people who can afford them, I almost want to read this with a snide. For the small minority of people who can afford them, the benefits it offers are immediate, and the rationale unapologetic, and I have to sneeze.
The unapologetic nature of this would make anybody sneeze.
That's
And the sneeze didn't come. Oh, golly.
I think
Okay.
Tony, I think Kevin has a question for you.
Yes.
Somebody has to read that chat that he has a question regarding.
Oh, we have a question in chat. Oh, okay.
Right.
Could someone read that for me? Because we're so far from our screen.
Andy, can you read it?
Yeah. Kevin's question is, what's the reading material used for this session?
Well, the
I'm
reading
very
material,
interested,
Kevin.
but for the life of me, can't say I'm familiar with it. Go ahead and tell them, guys.
One Common Faith.
It's
And it's available online.
Yes, and it is available online.
Yes, One Common Faith. Thank you for asking, Kevin. Thank you. So to continue, for the small minority of people who can afford them, the benefits it offers are immediate, and the rationale unapologetic. Emboldened by the breakdown of traditional morality, the advance of the new creed is essentially no more than the triumph of animal impulse, as instinctive and blind as appetite, released at long last from the restraints of supernatural sanctions. I'm resisting the impulse to want to read that again. But that's a new creed. That's the advance of the new creed. The advance of the new creed, I'm doing it, is essentially no more than the triumph of animal impulse, as instinctive and blind as appetite. I want that, I'm going to get it. Released at long last from the restraints of supernatural sanctions. Its most obvious casualty, listen to this, its most obvious casualty has been language. Tendencies, once universally castigated as moral failings, mutate into necessities of social progress. Selfishness becomes a prized commercial resource. Oh my goodness. I was talking to you about this earlier.
Yes.
Selfishness becomes a prized commercial resource. Falsehood reinvents itself as public information. Perversions of various kinds unabashedly claim the status of civil rights. Under appropriate euphemisms, under appropriate euphemisms, greed, lust, indolence, pride, even violence acquire not merely broad acceptance, but social and economic value. How dare you actually want to limit my impulses? Ironically, as words have been drained of meaning, so have the very material comforts and acquisitions for which truth has been casually sacrificed. I'm going to read that again. Ironically, as words have been drained of meaning, so have the very material comforts and acquisitions for which truth has been casually sacrificed. We always need a little bit more, don't we?
Yeah.
Clearly, materialism's error has lain not in the laudable effort to improve the conditions of life. That's not the error, that's not the problem. Clearly, materialism's error has lain not in the laudable effort to improve the conditions of life, but in the narrowness of mind and unjustified self-confidence that have defined its mission. The importance both of material prosperity and of the scientific and technological advances necessary to its achievement is a theme that runs through the writings of the Baha'i faith. Do you think I should read that again? I think I've done it.
I think so.
The importance both of material prosperity and of the scientific and technological advances necessary to its achievement is a theme that runs through the writings of the Baha'i faith. As was inevitable from the outset, however, arbitrary efforts to disengage such physical and material well-being from humanity's spiritual and moral development have ended by forfeiting the allegiance of the very populations whose interests a materialistic culture purports to serve. We've become slaves
Yep.
to materialism.
Missed the point.
Yeah. Wow. Arbitrary efforts to disengage such physical and material well-being from humanity's spiritual and moral development have ended by forfeiting the allegiance of the very populations whose interests a materialistic culture purports to serve. This is a quote from Baha'u'llah. Witness how the world is being afflicted with a fresh calamity every day, Baha'u'llah warns. Its sickness is approaching the stage of utter hopelessness, inasmuch as the true physician, that's in capital, that's capitalized, that's God, or the manifestation of God. Its sickness is approaching the stage of utter hopelessness, inasmuch as the true physician is debarred from administering the remedy, whilst unskilled practitioners are regarded with favor and are accorded full freedom to act. Unskilled practitioners. You know, so many people are proclaiming themselves to be leaders who have good ideas that you should follow, whose program you should purchase or just jump on board with. And I'm not saying they're bad, but many of them are what Baha'u'llah would refer to as unskilled practitioners. And he mentioned the true physician. And who is the true physician?
Only God.
Yeah, yeah. But we regard the unskilled practitioners with favor. And we give them full freedom to act. We could come up with a long list of some people who might qualify as unskilled practitioners. But there's not enough time today or next week or whatever. Oh, wow. I'm getting pulled in. I was straddling the fence on the book, but I'm getting pulled in. And at this time, we're going to stop there for today, folks. We're going to stop there for today, and we hope that you can join us again next week. We don't mean we're leaving right now, but we're going to stop reading right now. And we're going to go ahead and have some time now for anyone who would like to offer up a prayer or reading of your choosing. And as always, we like to start with our Kambiz moment, followed by our Andy Murphy moment. And Kambiz, do you have something you'd like to share with us today?
Sure, I have a prayer to chant.
Please.
ای پروردگار خطیات نفوس را عفو کن و سیئات ذلیلان را سرت تو واقفی تو عالمی تو مطلعی تو آگاهی ما گنه‌کاریم ما خطاکاریم ما غافلیم ما زائلیم تو افقی تو بزرگواری تا مردگاری انک انت التواب الستار.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Camby's. Thank you. Andy, you have something you'd like to share with us?
Love is something if you give it away, give it away, give it away. Love is something if you give it away, it comes right back to you. Love is like a magic penny, hold on tight and you won't have any. Just spend it and give it away, it comes right back to you. Happiness is something if you give it away, give it away, give it away. Happiness is something if you give it away, it comes right back to you. Happiness is like a magic penny, hold on tight and you won't have any. Then spend it and give it away, it comes right back to you. Yeah, it comes right back to you.
Thank you.
Andy. That was cute. Is there anyone else who would like to share a prayer or reading or song? Anyone? Well then, let me readjust our camera here for the Facebook stream. Right now I'm cutting your head off, Daryl, so I'm going to lift that up a little bit.
And while he's doing that, I'd like to remind everyone that this effort that we put on every week is a result of multiple communities, most prominently the Clearwater Baha'i Center. And for anyone who's interested in learning more about the Baha'i faith, there are some definitive websites where you can go and get more information. And among those are www.baha'i.us, www.baha'i.org. And if you happen to be in the Tampa Bay Clearwater area, you can always go to the Clearwater Baha'i website, which is www.clearwaterbaha'is.org. And one more is www.baha'iteachings.org. So
Keep talking. I'm setting things up. Keep talking.
okay. So while we're preparing for the end game here,
Still not ready.
okay, yeah.
Because there are some things you have to say you still haven't said, Daryl.
Well, the only thing that I have to say is that the one thing that any of us can do to improve the lives, our lives, and the lives of everyone around us, is something that is so easy and so simple to do, and that is to share the love. I guarantee you it's something that you'll never regret. Just share the love.
Share the love. We need to write a song about that.
Yeah, we do. And we're early enough today that we can probably do the whole song, I think.
You think so? Because this isn't like a 20-minute song. The whole thing. No. I only hope you get. My eyes are really giving me some problems today. I think it's time to go ahead and get them rechecked and get some new glasses. But I'm going to try and we'll try this. That's not right. How vast is the tabernacle of the cause of God! It hath overshadowed all the peoples and kindreds of the earth, and will ere long gather together the whole of mankind beneath its shelter. The day of service is now come. Arise for the triumph of my cause, and through the power of thine utterance, subdue the hearts of men. Thou must show forth that which will ensure the peace and the well-being of the miserable and the downtrodden. Let your vision be world embracing. Let your vision be world embracing. Let your vision be world embracing. Whoa, whoa. It is incumbent upon every man in this day to hold fast unto whatsoever will promote the interest and exalt the station of all nations and just governments. Through each and every one of the verses which the pen of the Most High hath revealed, the doors of love and unity have been unlocked and flung open in the face of men. We have erewhile declared, and our word is the truth. Consort with the followers of all religions in a spirit of friendliness and fellowship. Let your vision be world embracing. Let your vision be world embracing. Let your vision be world embracing. Oh, oh. Let your vision be world embracing. O people of justice, be as brilliant as the light, and as splendid as the fire that blazed in the burning bush. The brightness of the fire of your love will no doubt Fuse and unify the contending peoples and kindreds of the earth, whilst the fierceness of the flame of enmity and hatred cannot but result in strife and ruin. We beseech God that he may shield his creatures from the evil designs of his enemies. He verily hath power over all things. Let your vision be world embracing. Let your vision be world embracing. Let your vision be world embracing. Oh, oh. Watch over yourselves, for the evil one is lying in wait, ready to entrap you. Gird yourselves against his wicked devices, and led by the light of the name of the all-seeing God, make your escape from the darkness that surroundeth you. Let your vision be world-embracing, rather than confined to your own self. These are the words of Baha'u'llah. Be world-embracing. Let your vision be world-embracing. Let your vision be world embracing. Oh, oh. Have a good week, folks. Take care.
Take care. Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar.